Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I have another good story for you, a person that's going to share their success. And she has been through a lot, and I didn't even know she existed, but she used to watch our channel and get a lot of benefit from the success stories. So she's here to bring you her success story, which she fought a lot for this. So I'm really proud of her. I am so happy for her. We have never worked together, but she's just sent me an email and said, Angie, I've been watching your channel. I want to share my story too. Would you be willing to have me on? And I was like, absolutely. So I can't wait for you to hear her story and her struggle and her triumphant victory also. Kat, would you please say hi to everybody?
Hi, I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to share my experience and how I overcame it.
Thank you so much. So, Kat, let's start with the very beginning. You were in your teens, right? When you got first put on a medication. So tell us like what led to being put on a medication and how did that kind of unfold?
Yeah, so on and off through high school, I was on medications, but I never stayed on them very long. Like it was very brief. But I never had I had like a slightly negative experience with Zoloft, but once I stopped taking it, it went away. So I kind of thought that's how they worked. Like if you stop taking it, everything kind of goes away and it's out of your system. But I never was on it for like a long period of time in high school. But that was kind of like my first introduction to the psych system.
When people say these meds work for everyone, not everybody has trouble coming off. And I would say, yes, maybe. And maybe the first time is easier than the second or the third. So you definitely have a story of this kind of compounded harm that we see where you don't even know you're being hurt or set up for a later injury, possibly. Do you feel like that kind of is what happened?
Yeah, and I think it also gives an impression that they're harmless when you take them once and like they're fine and you don't have any negative reaction. And I think that's the impression that I had. And then, I went to school for psychology, so you learn about them and you learn that they're beneficial and like they help people. So I just didn't have a negative view of psychiatric drugs at that point, but I definitely think like being put on and put off stuff. And I never took anything for that long either. So I think that kind of, gave me that
Yeah.
first impression, but also started, that.
Yeah. So then take us to your 20s. Then what happened that really compounded your injury?
So at this point I hadn't been on any psychiatric drugs for, years. I was pretty happy, life was going good. I just moved to Alaska and then I got a really bad concussion. So I was hiking and I slipped and fell and slammed my head into a rock really, really hard. And I had a really bad concussion from that. And I had kind of later concussion symptoms. So they started showing up like weeks later, months later. And it was a post-concussive syndrome that was really bad. So then I started getting headaches, fatigue, like neurological symptoms, dizziness, all of those kind of things. And then I started feeling some like depression creeping in. So that kind of started the getting in back into the psychiatric kind of system.
So, of course, when you say to a doctor that I'm experiencing depression and anxiety, but I also have a brain injury, because a lot of my veteran friends fall into this trap that they start putting medications in a brain that's not quite healed yet, which I think complicates things. And I've had 3 brain injuries myself, pretty mild. One was pretty severe, but I always wonder, like, how did that impact my brain's ability to heal from that post-concussive syndrome? Or how do these medications affect brain health in general? What do you think about that?
Yeah, the right way to go about it would be to, in my opinion, like support healing with like diet and exercise and all of that stuff. But that was never any of the advice that I was given.
Yeah.
It was like, here's another medication for your headaches. Here's another medication for this. It was just like going through a bunch of them and nothing was helping. At one point I was put on, a bunch of steroids for migraines and those made me super, super anxious and kind of started getting me into psychiatric drugs because my anxiety was so bad. Um, but I think the brain is capable of, healing itself with the right tools and, just drugging people up after these injuries, I don't think provides a good environment for that to happen.
As you're saying that, I was thinking like we just are treating symptoms, we're managing symptoms, but we're not really trying to support the body's ability to heal itself, which is something you know more about than most people. I can't wait for you to share the healing tools and healing stuff that you did. But like our
Mhm.
whole system is built on just managing symptoms, not really supporting a body to heal itself.
Yeah, I agree because it's like what I mean, it's never getting deeper, like, how can we rehabilitate you after a concussion? Like, that was never asked. It was just, like, sending me straight to the psychiatrist or sending me straight to the neurologist, and here's prescriptions, but no one ever asked about what I was eating. No one asked about how much I was exercising. No one asked if I was, like, doing things to rehabilitate my brain, like, reading or stuff like that. Like that was not part of the conversation at all, which I think is total mismanagement of a concussion or any type of brain injury.
Yes. So you're being so humble about your story so far, but can you take us to the worst part, which eventually led to ECT? And I do have many people in the audience that are watching that are similar to you, where when you get medicated over and over and over, and there's all these changes, and let's try this, let's try that, and the person is just so sick and so desperate that they turn to ECT or TMS or possibly ketamine. Can you take us through that period of time and what was that like for you?
Yeah, so it kind of started, I was like on these steroids and on some migraine medication. And then I had a really bad migraine one day. I go to the hospital and they give me this drug called Compazine. And that's actually a first generation antipsychotic that they reuse for migraines for whatever reason. And I had a catastrophic reaction to that drug. Um, I had akathisia that did not go away after the drug was out of my system. The first week I had it, like I didn't sleep for like 3 or 5 days, like in that range. I had to go to the hospital. They had to give me benzos to put me to sleep because I felt myself like on the verge of psychosis from the lack of sleep. Like that's how bad it was. And then I remember waking up from sleeping for the first time. The akathisia started to die down, but I was completely like muted out from the world. Anhedonia was really bad. DPDR was bad. I had a ton of neurological symptoms. I had POTS type symptoms. Like everything that worked in my body did not work anymore. Didn't feel like a human anymore. Just a state that I had never been in. And that led me to a psychiatrist, which then led me to a bunch of different cycles of medications. I was on different antidepressants. I was on some mood stabilizers. Nothing worked. Mainly everything made me worse. One antidepressant did bring akathisia back, but luckily it stopped when I got off of it. But the biggest things were I had this deep, deep, deep depression. Like I was the poster child for someone who was depressed. Like matted hair, was not showering, was not eating, in a dark room, laying in bed all day, did not want to be here anymore. And that's why I was just saying yes to everything because I just did not care anymore. I had no will. And that's what led me to ECT because I was so sick. Um, and at the time, I just kind of agreed to it because of desperation and because it does feel like when you're at that point, there's no other options, at least in the medical system, no other options are left. And it's like, well, this is what you have to do because there's nothing left. So I agreed to it. And yeah, that's what led me to having ECT.
Yes. And what was that like for you at the time? Do you feel like it worked? How many did you get? Was it bilateral, unilateral?
So I started with unilateral, which they often do because it's less severe than bilateral. Um, and I remember being terrified. Like it's a terrifying thing to get done. You're sitting in a hospital bed. I was already out of my mind, depressed, didn't want to be there. And like I remember going in and my hair was like matted into knots. Like I was like, how did I get to this place when I was like completely normal, like, a year or two ago? And I just remember laying in the bed thinking, how is this my life? And that was like very surreal and chilling, and it just felt like a nightmare. And then I ended up getting maybe like 4 or 5 unilateral, and then maybe like 3 bilateral. I don't think it worked. It didn't really do anything. I didn't really have any negative or positive effects, which is really rare to not feel anything at all. But I just kind of after that, I really don't think I felt anything either way.
Wow. So I would just imagine, and maybe I'm putting my own experience onto yours, but I definitely felt that, okay, I'm trying all these meds, I'm doing everything they're telling me to do, and I feel worse than ever. That must mean I'm really sick if this stuff is not working. So how did you feel after that ECT? Like all of it?
I felt terrible. I mean, you just literally feel like you're out of options. I mean, I was so depressed. I really wanted to give up after that. But I was like, I'm gonna try. Like, none of this worked. So it kind of like woke something up inside of me, like, this is not working. Like, I need to stop doing all of this stuff. I need to never go to a doctor's office again because none of this, like, the medicine is not working. And this is all not working. So it kind of woke that up into me of like, I can try a different way or I can give up completely. And then luckily I ended up trying a different way, and that's kind of where I was at because after that, I was like, I've tried everything. Like, I'm done. I got every medical test done. Like, I was OCD queen. Um, I literally I had a spinal tap. That's how
Oh my
sick
God.
I was and how like that. Like, I ended up having a spinal fluid leak from the spinal tap. Like, I literally did every test. It was literally like, there's nothing left in the medical system because I've done it all that I like, there
Hmm.
has to be, a different way. And I was really, really sick too, like really sick. So, um,
So,
yeah.
like many patients, me included, you reach a dead end, and there's just something in your intuition, something in your body, maybe a little fear that says, like, I don't know what else to do. I've done everything. So, what is left? And then that's usually when people start looking at the meds themselves or at the narrative they believe about themselves, like, am I really mentally ill? Is my help to be found in psychiatry? Is it something else? Is the treatment itself making me sick? So what was your what it like wake up moment like? Like what kind of questions were you pondering? What were you thinking was the next step, if anything? Like take us to that moment.
Yeah. So I was like, there has to be another way. And I started to look at neuroplasticity and I watched, success stories and stuff like that. And there were people who said they worked on their, nervous system and they did things like this. But I also needed to get off the carousel of medication. So, I don't do this. I threw away my last medication I was on. Don't do that, but that's what I did. And I was like, I have to give my brain a chance to reach an equilibrium. And throughout that time, I was never on anything that long either because I was just being like cycled and cycled when things weren't working. Um, but I was like, I have to get off everything and just like let my brain reach some homeostasis because it's just getting it's getting shocked, it's getting medications thrown at it. So that was like step one for me. And then, yeah, step two was, yeah, I read about neuroplasticity. I read about brain injuries, people who've had strokes. I've read stories of people who, managed to heal through, their nervous system and just giving their body the tools it needs to heal because your body can when it's given the right tools. So,
Love it. This is my favorite part of the interview, I'm sure. So, I know some of the books that you read. One of them is my favorite, The Brain That Changes Itself by Norman Doidge. And I think often, especially working with people in withdrawal from medications or people that are, not many that I work with the ECT, but there is enough that you feel so sick and you're so out of your mind and you're not like yourself and you're living someone else's life that you don't even recognize your own life, that you can't really see that anything other than what you're experiencing right now is possible. So how did you hold on to that like hope of all these things that you were reading about and learning about, but you are feeling so ill yourself? Like, how did you do that?
again, reading the books gave me hope. And I realized like your life can change in an instant. And none of this was my fault. None of it's any of our faults, but it is our responsibility. Like, I heard a neurologist say that once. She's like, it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility. And I was like, it is my responsibility, unfortunately, to get myself, out of this somehow. And these doctors are not going to do it for me. So I just, again, the success stories and people who've recovered from
Created that
strokes and
said,
brain
we
injuries, and
don't
I'm
need
like,
to train
they,
physicians in this unless they are
over
neurologically
time, I mean, it's
minded
a slow process, but we're
doctors,
able
which
to
means,
come back into their
yeah, and
life
I'll
again.
I'll put it here in the
Um,
edit
and
so
it's
that
a
people can read
slow,
it. But Kim
long
has it on
process,
Twitter.
but it is possible. So that's what kind of gave me hope is, reading other people who are able to do that. And, these are the same people who woke up one day and they were living a nightmare, and that's how I felt, but they were able to come back. So it is possible. And just like any other organ or part of your body that can heal, and it takes a long time and it takes rehabilitation, I truly believe that about the brain.
Love it. This morning, I'm going to share this. This morning, with one of my groups, we were talking about creativity. And one of the people was very upset that I don't feel creative. I don't know when I'm going to be able to do things that are creative. And I expressed that some people can be creative and some people can't, and some people it waxes and wanes. It just depends on the person. And then I said I did some of my best writing in my suffering, which is weird. It wasn't all the time. It was just every once in a while something would come out. And somebody in the group, it just completely blew my mind. They said, I don't want to buy or believe that our life is on pause. They said, this is a creativity process. Like we have to be really creative about what we do to help us recover. And then I said, well, add another layer. Your body is being creative. There's this destruction that happens, but then it's like recreating a human being. And then I sat there for a minute and I was thinking about my own life. Like, what was I like before the meds, on the meds, and now? And those are 3 different people. And I didn't have a lot of to do about that. Like, there was something in my body that like was destructed, and then something new was created out of that. How do you feel about that kind of, I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, that's so true. I mean, I think back to the person I was before, and I'm definitely a different person now. I know a lot more about the brain and the body, but also you have to see the darkest parts of yourself throughout this process and confront those parts of yourself. At least it felt like to me. And also reach in for strength that you didn't know you had. Nobody knows this is going to happen to them. Nobody expects this. Nobody knows how bad it is. I mean, most people don't go through something like this, so it's hard to find people that do relate. So you have to find this, inner strength that you don't know existed and that many people will not understand when you tell them about it. And that's like a process of rebuilding and regrowth in and of itself, I think, too. And you do come out, I think you come out of it a stronger, I feel more appreciative of everything in my life too. And when I do experience like real joy, I just let those moments sink in. Like, I don't feel like I have to take a picture of it. I don't feel like I have to, tell someone about it. Like, I just let myself be in that moment. I guess the mindfulness aspect, like, I can just like sit in a moment now. And before it was like, I have to go, go, go. I have to take pictures of everything. I have to tell people that I did this, and now I can really like sit in a moment and enjoy it. So you gain some things after you go through something this hard, I think.
Yes. Now I'm going to say something I didn't plan on saying, but I was getting a lot of pushback about hope and telling people you will heal. Like, it takes time. And I put it into ChatGPT and I said, why do people get so pissed off at me on my YouTube channel when I'm talking about hope or I'm bringing success stories? And it made a really good point. It said, to bring hope to someone in the midst of their suffering, it feels like invalidating, because first you got to validate the suffering first of how hard this is and like how
Mhm.
intense it is. Person who is in the middle of their suffering cannot see hope, and they are going to take it as insulting or invalidating. Like, great, I don't care that you're grateful for seeing flowers bloom. I am fighting for my life right now. So can
Mhm.
you tell us about like your deepest, darkest? What was that like for you? And feel free to talk about whatever you want, but like, our channel likes this esoteric, like, what parts of yourselves did you have to confront? Like, what did that actual healing process look like? Because I know because I'd experienced it myself, it is not rainbows and butterflies and unicorns. It is hard and it is gross and it is yucky and
Mm.
it's really scary, and most of it's by yourself, and you can't even say some of the things that you discover about yourself because it's so bad, and it's just so complicated. So what was that healing process like for you, especially the darkness?
You know, it's I lost a lot of things, and you know, financially, all the money I had saved up, I had to stop working because I wasn't functioning, you know. So I lost that. I went into so much medical debt. I lost friends, I lost a relationship. I felt like my entire being had been stripped, and
Yes.
everything I knew had been stripped away from me, and I had nothing left to look at. Like the life that I built, there was nothing left of it. And that was a horrifying thing. But it made me like, I thought back to childhood, I thought back to who I was as a person, and I thought, "When I get out of this, you know, what kind of person do I wanna be? How do I wanna live my life? What is important to me?" And I thought about all those things, and I didn't have hope a lot of the time. I definitely didn't have hope after, you know, ECT. I didn't have hope, you know, sitting on a hospital bed. I didn't like, there was nothing. My hope was that it would come to me in a pill, you know, and that I would feel better. That's what I was thinking at the time. Um, but I wanted to fight, I guess, and I think we all have that in us. We all have this desire to fight, and I was like, I will do everything I can possible, and I wanted to give up a lot. Like, that's led me to ECT, and it led me to a lot of stuff. There was a lot of times I didn't wanna fight anymore, but I wanted to live really, really badly, and I knew I had a lot of life ahead of me, and there were so many things I wanted to do, and I think that desire to live is what kept me going, and even though my life at the time was completely gone as I knew it, I had this idea, this, like, really small idea that I could build a new one, um, and I mean, I'm talking tiny. Most of the time I had no hope, but every once in a while I was like, "I can build a new life. I can do these things that I have on my list of things I've always wanted to do." So that's what kept me going in the
Yeah.
darkest times.
I also hear in there, like, there was a desire, like I wasn't finished, like I wasn't quite done, and like I didn't want to just stop here, you know?
Mhm.
But what you just said, Kat, is absolutely what the people that I am working with are experiencing: loss of friends, family, self, identity, sexuality, personality. Like, you become nothing. You are nothing but a
Mm.
suffering ball of symptoms, and you don't know what is going to
Right.
happen. And that is the
Mhm.
most difficult thing for a human mind to grapple with. I think that's where a lot of our fear thoughts come from, and our projection, like, I'm never going to get better. I'm stuck like this. It's permanent. It's because you are living in so much uncertainty and there's just no anchor. Like, you don't have a safety raft because it's so unknown, because you feel so bad and you've already ran through all the doctors and the tests, and there's like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what you just said is, it's what everybody's struggling with, you know, and that's why our channel exists. I gotta sneeze. Is because it's like I have this desire as a coach just to keep people hanging on, because I know what the healing process is like. You know, your story is very similar to everyone's. People are, you know, 2/3 of it or 1/3 of it, but they're not to the finish line yet. They're not, you know, and it's not a finish line really. It's always evolving. But like when you're in
Mhm.
the middle of it, that is the last time you should be making a decision about whether to live or die, because there's so
Mhm.
much more to come after that.
Yeah. And it is honestly crazy how fast things can change. That is what I wanna tell
Yeah.
everyone.
Let's talk
It
about that.
is, yeah. I mean, the difference between 4 months, so just had ECT, um, hadn't taken a shower in a week, was in my bedroom, had no life anymore, completely depressed, had anhedonia, had all these things. 4 months later, I started back to work part-time. Like, it is crazy how fast things can change.
Wow.
And, I mean, that was a long there was a lot of work that went into those 4 months, but, um and I was terrified. I remember I had like a panic attack right before I went into work, but I told myself I could do it, and then it ended up being fine. So, I mean, that's what I want people to know. Things can change very quickly, especially when you start putting in those little bits of effort every single day. And I'm talking about the smallest little steps that you have to take, and it feels like it's doing nothing in the moment. Like a 5-minute walk feels like it's doing nothing, but over time it adds up and it adds up and it adds up, and it's consistency.
I love it. Okay, so let's start there. Let's go into those 4 months of healing for you, what you did. But I do want to bring one point really quick. You might be, I don't know, because here our community needs to hear this. Some people can get off relatively quickly. Some people cannot. We don't know who falls in what group. Usually the way you find out is the person tries to taper or cold turkey, and then they find out, oh, I'm not a person that can do this. It's too hard. It's too difficult. The symptoms are too severe. So how are you making sense of you cold turkeyed it, like, which is not recommended? Do you think
Yeah.
like it was like toxic to your brain because it had been injured, or like how have you made sense of that before we get into your healing process?
I think with my particular story, because I did have like an experience with Zoloft as a teenager, thinking back, I think I have something, I can't metabolize these drugs correctly, or my body was not processing the amount of drugs that were going into my system. I mean, even with the Compazine, everyone told me this is supposed to be out of your system. This isn't supposed to affect you anymore. So I think it was some type of like toxicity that was happening. And then it was
Mm,
happening over and over and over. So I don't know that I was on any medications long enough for me to adapt, like my brain to adapt or become reliant on them in any way. I think it was just like chemicals going in and out of my brain over and over and never being able to reach homeostasis.
got it.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to bring that up because I've seen some people that were on for like 6 months get off in a couple months and they're relatively fine. And then I've seen people be on for a month and it takes them 2 years to taper. And there's lots of reasons why. And there's no real way for us to know who goes where or
Yeah.
if you can get off. You know what I mean? I just want to bring that up. Okay. So now let's talk about healing tools, neuroplasticity, taking little steps, healing process, being an active participant in your healing. What did that look like for you? What was your beliefs about all that?
I tried. So I tried to, my mindset before was definitely doom and gloom. Which is normal going through this. I mean, it is literally a nightmare. That's what it felt like. So you can't blame anybody for having that. But I just try to, I watched a lot of things about mindset, but in the way of um hope and kind of like not not believing you're sick, but you can't, kind of the quote, you can't heal in the same place you got sick. So changing the environment in that way. Um So I've just the thought that I could get better. Like that's what I reinforced in myself is what I'm trying to say.
I
Like
love
just
that.
telling myself I could get better.
Hmm.
Because I think it starts with that belief. You have to believe it first, and you have to believe that there is another side. And you don't know how you're going to get there at the time, and you don't know what it's going to look like, but you just know it exists. So that was kind of the starting point. And then again, I read a lot of books and watched a lot of or listened to a lot of podcasts from like neuroscientists and stuff like that about neuroplasticity. And I mean, they all kind of said the same thing. It's like very small steps every day, like the smallest thing. So the first thing I ever did was laid in the sun for 10 minutes and it felt like I did nothing. Like I was like, this isn't making me feel better, but it doesn't at the time. And there was this one neurologist who said health isn't built out of a thing you do once, it's built out of consistent habits. Health is consistency. Um, so that's what I kind of try to remember. It's doing small things, the same thing every day, and it builds and it builds and it builds upon itself. Um, so it started with that, and then I remember I went on my first walk. And then I remember maybe I did like my first like mile hike. I used to be like a huge hiker, like always outside. So I remember the feeling of going outside again in the woods for the first time and how much I missed it and how much I just wanted to like be there again. And I remember just like kind of this feeling of like something I used to love, like coming back to me. And it was the smallest little feeling, but it was like enough to make me want to do it again. And I think those little moments happen and they start building up, and it makes you want to start trying things again and start going out into life again. And again, it's a slow process. And at the time, you think it's doing nothing and you think it's inconsequential, but it adds up and it adds up. And then you start to get more moments like that. And then my like desire to do things came back because I had, amotivation, I had anhedonia, like all of those things. And I started to just like get little glimpses of like feeling like a normal human again and having like a desire to go outside or a desire, to eat a good meal. And they came very small at first. Like it wasn't like I was like boom, fully healed back to normal. It was like just the smallest little glimpse of life. And then they added on and they added on. And then before you know it, I was kind of living life again. And I was like, whoa, like, how did I get here? So,
Right. So, on a neuroscience standpoint, let me describe what she just did. Those little micro exposures to things that her symptoms were telling her not to do sent a message of safety back to her nervous system that, wait, my body is healthy. Look what it can do, even if it's only 5 minutes at a time. Number two, your nervous system, this is a principle of healing. Your nervous system takes the information and the environment, and it's almost like you're telling it what you want. So if you're, for instance, when I go to the gym and I squat 95 pounds, I'm telling it, I need you to grow muscle to be able to squat 95 pounds. Okay, now I'm going to add 5 more. So I need you to grow the muscle needed for 100 pounds. Okay, so for you, it was, one block, 5 minutes of walking, and then 10 minutes, and then 1 mile. And so your nervous system needs that information. It needs that stimulus to know what you want from it. And then it adapts from there. So that's just how the brain and body work. That's how healing works. That's how people are healing without doing neuroplasticity most of the time, because they do start feeling a little better. Their symptoms are a little less, and then they start doing more. And then their body's like, wait, this isn't so dangerous like I thought it was. I actually like this. Let's do some more of that. So kind of people do that naturally. You don't need a program to do it necessarily, right?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good. Really good stuff. And then here's a question I think the audience might want to know. When you have really bad symptoms, how did you do this kind of stuff or not?
Yeah. There was this, it's like acceptance. So I read about acceptance therapy. I learned about it a little bit when I was in school, and I just love the concept of acceptance, like radical acceptance. So there were days where I would get up and I'd be dizzy and I'd have a headache and I'd feel so like disassociated. And I was like, there's no way I'm going outside. And I was like, well, let's just try it, because it wasn't always just like up, up, up. It was like, this. So I was like, let's just accept that this is how I feel. I can't do anything about it right now, and see if I can, do that thing anyway. So I tried to accept and allow the symptoms, and that was a process too of like, this is uncomfortable, but I'm not going to die, this is uncomfortable, but I'm not going to
Exactly.
pass out and fall on the ground. Um, just being okay with doing things while uncomfortable, was a process. And there's, still times to this day, like we all have anxiety. I still have normal anxiety. And I just like sit there and I like let it wash over me. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like that's just how I feel right now. So
Yes.
that's a skill I've
So
kind of
good.
like learned for life
So good.
now. Yeah.
Yes. I was going to talk about that next, about what kind of how did those stages of recovery like stick to you? Because I have the same exact experience. Like all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff that I was doing in withdrawal to survive it, it felt like it wasn't even working. Like sometimes it would work 1%, or sometimes it would just pass the time, but I didn't feel like, is this actually doing anything? Like, I don't think it's working. It's just helping me pass the time. What a waste of time that is. But it absolutely stuck. And some of
Mm-hmm.
those things were like being in the present moment. Like I don't worry about, and you're like me, you're nomadic too. Like I don't worry about where am I going to be next week, or what do I need to sleep, or what do I need. That stuff doesn't worry me. I just kind of take it as it comes. That was a lesson that I got out of withdrawal. Another one is mindfulness. Like enjoy what you're doing and stop running to the next thing. Like if I see a sunset, I sit there and enjoy it. I kind of milk the moment. And then when things are bad, I'm like, okay, this is bad. It's here. Whatever that means. What do you mean by it's bad? It's just something that's here, you know?
Mhm.
And absolutely the anxiety thing, exactly the same. I can have moments of a little flush of fear. I was telling the group this morning about I drove over a really scary mountain pass and I had a choice between two really scary mountain passes. I was like, which one? They both suck, you know, like here we go. And when I started getting the fear, because, you know, it's really high. We're at 10,000 feet. We're going up to 12,000
Mhm.
feet and there's a cliff, you know, and I
Yeah.
felt this rush of fear. And what the way I reframed it was, no, Angie, this is your body's ability to make coffee. It's keeping you awake. You need to be awake and pay attention because there's a cliff, you know?
Mhm.
And I feel the anxiety. I allow it. I accept it. I loosen my grip on the steering wheel and I'm like, okay, here we go. We're a little bit afraid. That's cool. And then
Mhm.
it dissipates. You know, healing is not an absence of all symptoms and an absence of all fear. Life is
Mhm.
here, but it's not
Yeah.
the level of withdrawal. So will you talk about like, what is life like now? What stuck with you? We'll talk about gifts after this, but just how did that healing stuff help you in the long run?
Yeah, so definitely the acceptance and allowance thing. Um, I do like really long hikes, runs, I skate all the time. I'm out like in the back country, like stuff like that. And there's a lot of chances for me to be scared. So it's just like it's being like it's okay, like, and also being kind of rational. Like I know where the trail is, I know where I can camp, I know where water is, I have bear spray. Like all those rational thoughts come too. But also when I feel the fear, I just allow it. And I'm also like, I can that's a normal response to these things. Like this doesn't mean I'm sick. This means I'm human. And I think that's
No,
something when we feel a
exactly.
little, yeah, we feel like a little bit of depression, anxiety. And, before I would run to the doctor, but now I'm like, no, this means I'm human and I'm having a normal human reaction to something. So it's almost like, not that I'm glad to have those moments, but, I'm like, this is just part of being a human. And also, I allow them and accept them and like let them wash over me like a wave, kind of that whole thing. Um, and sometimes I don't even try to like figure it out. I just let it happen and it pauses
Same.
and it goes. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't have to
It's
figure it all out.
You don't. Yeah, and sometimes just to hit on that point again, everybody's looking for this nervous system regulation, but you don't need that. When you learn to radically accept, allow symptoms, let things wash over you, your system normal regulates for you. You don't have to go in there and regulate it. That is the
Mhm.
regulation. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like, but it's and I've done it millions of times, and we do it with withdrawal symptoms, we do it with panic, we do it with anxiety, we do it with insomnia, we do it with all kinds of stuff where your body is intelligent. There's a reason this fear is rising, okay? But you keep going in there and saying, "Stop, stop. I don't want you to do that. Let's breathe 8 times to make it stop." You're telling your body that's bad, but it wants
Mhm.
to do that. It has to express whatever it needs in the moment, and you don't need to know why and have a reason. That's your ego getting in the way. You know, sometimes just like you, I would pull over and just start crying. I don't know why. It's just something that needed to come out. I don't need to know why. I just
Yeah.
need to allow that process to happen and let that thing complete whatever that was. I don't need to know every little thing of what's going on with me and what does it mean. It doesn't mean anything sometimes. It just means a discharge, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Amazing.
and I don't think I mean, you don't think you need to do 20 breathing exercises every day, every time you have a bad feeling, 'Cause you're human and those things happen naturally, and again, accepting and allowing, you're teaching yourself that this is not something to be afraid of, this is something that happens, and you can keep doing what you were doing while this was happening, and I think that's the best lesson that you could teach your brain, is that you don't have to pause every time you feel a negative emotion. You just keep going, doing what you were doing, and let it happen. And there's times I let myself cry. I mean, I always
Yes.
let myself cry now. I don't hold it in. I kind of the same thing as you, like if I need to pull over and cry or if I'm crying in the car. And that doesn't mean I'm mentally ill. That doesn't mean you're depressed because
No.
you need to cry. That means you're human. And I think there's just such a disconnect from the normal human experience versus mental illness now that I just hate. But
Same.
letting yourself also, maybe a difference for a lot of people when you get out of this, something I noticed is I allow my emotions to come out so much more. I am vocal more about what bothers me. If I need to talk about something, if I am if I need to cry, I don't try to hide it. I let it come out. If I have a day where I just feel kind of like I just let that happen. I'm like, this was meant to happen. And I'm not trying to fight everything all the time. And
Yes.
that's a good feeling now, too.
I totally agree with you, and it's something I still work on because I have a tendency to like right now when we hang up, I'm going to be kind of sleepy. And the old me, maybe even a year ago, would have been like, go get a coffee and wake up. We got stuff to do. And now I'm like, no, I'm going to go take a nap by a river and listen to the creek. And that's it. I don't need to push
Mhm.
through everything and power through. My body wants to rest, you know?
Mhm.
Oh, I love everything you said. And I think
Yeah.
it's cool that we both reach the same kind of conclusions. Like, and I tell this to the people I work with all the time. Take everything as it comes. Just be present with whatever is here. That's it. It's really, if you feel like you're fighting for your life, be there now. Okay. It's probably going to pass. It's all temporary. Then you're going to get dizziness. Be with the dizziness. Then you're going to cry. Be with the crying. Then you know what I mean? It just kind of has a way of working itself out. There's nothing I need to do or nowhere else I need to be than right here with whatever's here, and
Mhm.
just let it move through you the way it needs to, including your symptoms from the medications.
Yeah. And I think whatever keeps you going in that moment. I mean, for me, like if I could find the smallest things to hold on to, like hold on to them with all you can. And again, I just want to emphasize how quickly things can change. Like I thought there was no hope so many times, and I was in like the darkest places. Like I was in the psych ward at one point, getting ECT, just like everything that could possibly happen happened. And like every symptom I experienced in some capacity, I think at some point. And I mean, I really thought there was like, and then I had the brain injury before that. And I really thought, like, if anyone's going to be sick forever, it's me because I have a brain injury and I have this going on. Um, but it was crazy how fast things changed. And I'm so grateful that I stayed and, believed that.
I'm grateful you did too. I'm very
Thank you.
grateful. Okay, so I'm thinking of what did we not cover that we should cover? Is there, if you could speak to someone that is watching right now and the darkest and the hardest part, what kind of hope would you bring to them right now?
First off, I want to say this isn't your fault. This isn't, you know, your doing. And again, things can change so quickly, and you never know when that day is going to happen. You'll never know when you're going to feel that first urge to take a little walk or whatever it is that you want to do. And if you can do something small right now, I really, really urge you to do it if you feel like you can. Um, and feed yourself with as much hope as you possibly can. I mean, there's so many dark things on these groups and the internet, and that just really fuels the fear, and getting off of those helped me as well. So feed yourself with as much hope and positive um resources that you possibly can, and please, please, please hang in there and know that there is another side. It does exist. I've seen it, and I've been to the darkest place, and I did not think that I could get out, and I somehow did. And I think everybody can do that and live their life again.
I love it. Thank you so much. And then I just have to ask this for my own curiosity. What are you doing now? What is life like now?
It's good. I'm currently in the mountains in Wyoming. I do a lot of hiking. Some About to go on a big backpacking trip soon. Running, skating. I'm very, very active. Never thought that would be possible again. Because my body was like so dead. But no, like every day I feel my body getting stronger and stronger, and it's amazing. Um, yeah, and I'm working out here in Wyoming, and I'm outside all the time, and that is so, so healing. So if anybody can go outside,
I
please do
agree.
that. Yeah, it is been the most healing thing just to be surrounded by nature every day, and also be away from the city and kind of, be disconnected in that way. That has been really healing as well. So it's been great.
I I agree with that too. I'm about to do the hike from Crested Butte to Aspen, but I'm not going to go all the way across. I'm just going to go like halfway and turn around and come back. But there's something, it's different when you're in the middle of a mountain range with wildflowers around you and normal natural sounds and birds and no cell phone. There's something about that is just healing. Like you can almost feel Mother Nature's nervous system helping your nervous system.
Yeah, it is. It's calming. And also the sense
Big
of
thing.
accomplishment when you do something like that. You're like, look, I made it here, and that feels good too. But yeah, no, it's a great thing. I love being outside is amazing. So,
and last thing, I forgot to ask you earlier, but how long has it been since you took a medication then? How far off are you from everything?
maybe 11 months. Around
Wow,
that range.
amazing. You have had a miraculous recovery. Oh my gosh. I think you might be the fastest recovered person on our channel right now. That is so fast, and I'm so happy for you. And I even like I'm sure you will agree with me, but Kat, you did a lot, but your body is what fixed that. You didn't need another pill. You kind of supported your body to heal itself, like we said in the beginning.
Yeah. And also while you're doing these things, try to eat clean, try to move, those things, and they come the movement and stuff comes later on. It all adds on to each other, but the basis of it was, the little things you can do every day adding up. But all the things that go into making someone healthy, you should do when you're trying to recover, in the consistency portion of it.
Exactly. I love it. All right. Well, do you have anything else that we missed or should say before we hang up? I think you said a lot, which I'm really happy about everything.
Again, I just want to give everybody hope. You never know how fast things can change, and I cannot stress that enough. And it's not about the timeline. It's not about the percent. I mean, any progress is progress in the right direction. So don't get hung up on the percent healed or, however much you're feeling day to day. And healing is up and down. There was days I felt bad again. There was days I felt better. But then you look how far you come when you look back and you realize how far and how much progress you made. So please, please hang in there if you're watching.
You've come a long way, Kat, from being the girl with mats in her hair on the ECT table. And now you're backpacking in the mountains of Wyoming. And they probably called you treatment resistant and you'll be on meds for the rest of your life. And you proved them wrong. And I am really proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Thank you for sharing your story. I know people are going to love it and get so much from it. And it's probably going to be one they put on replay because you just talk about all the necessary components. And a lot of it is just trusting the process and just trying to show up for yourself when nobody else is and you don't know what to do. All that uncertainty, you're like, well, I don't want to die. So what am I going to do? And I know a lot of people that are there right now. So it's really been helpful, everything you said. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for all that you do. And your videos meant a lot to me in my darkest time. And I just love how the way you say things and phrase things and, your philosophy on all this, I think is one of the most positive ones that are out there. So I really, really like it. Thank you.
Thank you. I try. It's very important to me. All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. If you want to leave a comment below, that would help. Maybe Kat will come back and check some of them out. I'll draw her attention to them. But thank you so much for joining us and for watching. And if you want to like and subscribe, there's more interviews coming. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Let me stop it.